Well, I'd really like to welcome you for being here today, and thanks to the Edmonds Theater for giving us this opportunity. I don't know how good coffee and popcorn taste together, but you guys go ahead and try it out. And I can't be in a theater without mentioning, please turn your cell phones down, or whatever they say at the beginning. But we want to get out by 9:30, so we'll just go ahead and get the program started. Well, my name is Diana White, and I'm really honored to serve you as president of the Edmonds School Board. With 4 kids of my own in public schools, I get a chance to meet a lot of great kids along the way. And I wanted to start by sharing a few stories about some of them. So my story starts here in Edmonds, at good old Edmonds Elementary, right around the corner. There's a couple of alumni that I'd like you to know about. First, there's Alex, who's brilliant. He's an energetic and engaging young man. Well, right now, he's studying engineering at MIT. And then there's Ashley, who's inquisitive and worldly, and she is going to graduate in June from Stanford University. So we have other schools with students like Miles, who's pursuing his passion in music, and right now he's studying at one of the most prestigious music schools in the heart of New York City. These are just a few of our graduates that I'm extremely proud of, including my own 2 kids. These are kids that are competing amongst the best and the brightest in colleges and universities across the country. And outside the classroom, we have success. This past fall, we watched with great excitement as the Edmonds Woodway girls soccer team went from unranked to #1 in the state by winning the state championship. Yes. Those girls are awesome, by the way. And if these were the only stories that you ever heard, you would think that the Edmonds School District is doing pretty well, right? Well, there's also some other kids that I want you to learn about. You need to know about the hungry 5-year-old boy who had no food at home, who asked his teacher how long a person could eat before they died. You need to know about the homeless student who arrived to school today by taxi. Sometimes they come from as far away as Puyallup. In fact, the Edmonds School District has 374 homeless children. That is bigger than Edmonds Elementary. Unfortunately, we have many stories like this. In fact, if you want to read some true stories, our Scriber High School students publish this book every year. You will read stories about addiction, struggles, abuse, everything, and these stories will break your heart. And all of this is the Edmonds School District. Our boundaries start here in the Bowl, and they stretch all the way east over to Bothell, north to Mukilteo, and south to Shoreline. And that covers nearly 20,000 students, 3,500 full and part-time staff, and 34 different schools and programs. We have schools with poverty rates as high as 80%, and we have others in the single digits. In fact, the district average is 36% of our students in free and reduced lunch. Some schools are bursting at the seams, and others, the classrooms sit empty. The Edmonds School District has 108 different languages being spoken. So we are amazingly diverse in every way. So how do we even begin to bridge this gap so that our students are ready to learn? Well, let's start with our mission. And our mission is this: each student learning every day. And if you think about how powerful that is, that means that if a student arrives by taxi or by a bus, or they drive their own car, or if they are hungry or not, each and every child deserves the best chance of success that we can give them. Our mission: each student learning every day. How else do we bridge this gap? Well, it really starts with you. It starts with you who value your belief in the value of a great education system that impacts our future generations and builds our communities. And also your vote that helps support our levies. These levies help us maintain and operate our schools, and they improve our technology. In fact, your support provides almost a quarter of our operating budget. Your vote that supports our bonds that help us build and improve the facilities where our students grow and learn. And please know that there's a dedicated staff in our district who are competent stewards of your tax dollars. In fact, this past year, our district bond rating was increased, and we are able to borrow money at very low interest rates to build some of our large capital projects. And we've also found creative solutions that capitalize on our properties, like the long-term lease near Alderwood Mall and future home of a Costco and other retailers. This enables our district the flexibility so that we can meet some pressing and long overdue projects like building a new College Place Middle School. How else do we bridge this gap? Well, we have amazing foundations and nonprofits in our communities that help us support our kids so that they're ready to learn. For example, we have the Verdant Health Commission, who helps us fund our Move 60 program that keeps our kids healthy and active. We have the Foundation for the Edmonds School District that's funding the Nourishing Networks program that helps us to feed our hungry kids. And we have the Hazel Miller Foundation, which I am very proud to be a part of. Well, we fund the after-school program that helps tutors hundreds of high school kids every year. It's partnerships like these and many others that really help us bridge the gap. The district partners with the Edmonds Center for the Arts that brings arts and culture and music to thousands of students every year. We work with our local police and fire to make sure that our schools and our students are safe. The district, along with the City of Edmonds, Verdant, and the state of Washington, are working together to bring you a fantastic new athletic complex at the old Woodway High School site. We hope to continue this collaboration in the future with the city to help make Civic Center the jewel that it deserves to be. These partnerships are extremely vital in building a community where people want to live and work, raise their families, and get a great education. So you see, we are working hard, but we have a lot of work to do, and we can't do it without your continued support. Besides voting, here's a few more things you can do, and it's a lot more fun. You can volunteer to read or be a lunch buddy at your local school. Our amazing parents and teachers will thank you. You can subscribe to our online district publications and learn more about the issues that are facing education today. You can go see a play production or a concert at your local high school or at our award-winning Edmonds Heights. You can support our athletics by going to a game. In fact, when I'm at a game, I usually have my father-in-law, Bob White, with me, and he says it's the best $3 entertainment in town. And he gets the senior discount, but it's still a really great deal. But seriously, success can be many things for many people. For some, it's an Ivy League education. For others, it's following a passion, and for some, it's just simply walking across the stage at graduation. We celebrate all of it. And with your continued support, we can make it possible so that every student in our community can write their own success story. Thank you. So our next speaker needs no introduction. He's our hometown travel guru, an author, TV host, and much more. But the best thing about him is that out of all the places to live in the world, he's chosen Edmonds. So ladies and gentlemen, Rick Steves.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you very much. And when Mayor Earling's staff asked me if I would say a few words about Edmonds, I thought this would be a great opportunity to just collect some thoughts on why I keep coming home to this beautiful town. You know, I've lived here since 1967. I didn't choose to live here. My dad knew I was on the wrong track in a rough little town called Edmonds, and he wanted to go to a nicer place to raise kids. So we moved to Edmonds then, and I think that was a good move, and I've found in my own personal experience, a great place to grow up, great place to raise kids, great place to go to school, great place to send your kids to school, and a wonderful place to run a business. I've worked at 5 different addresses in my life, and they've all been on 4th Avenue in downtown Edmonds. So I'm slowly but surely covering that street. And way back when I was paying my rent to good old Larry Hubbard, I realized this is a great place to have a business. I remember I used to walk down to what was the National Bank of Commerce every Tuesday night to the Coin Club. Those old timers were there selling their silver dollars, and I was wide-eyed about the big wide world, and it was just walking from Brookmere Drive to the National Bank of Commerce. Now, later on I went in there and got the first bank loan I ever needed was to get chairs to put in my little studio so I could let my piano students have their piano recital there, and that morphed into a travel class, and it's just a community that I've learned to love and cherish for 4 decades. I think there's only one thing I've done every year for the last 40 years, 35 years, and that's go to the Halloween event in Edmonds here. My life is so crazy, but it occurs to me, with kids or without kids, I'm just drawn to that event because it brings the community together. You think about, the different events that Edmonds has, those that you just feel like this brings people together. That's what it's all about. And whether it's a Taste of Edmonds or an arts thing or some kind of a car show or it's Halloween with all the kids, it's just a celebration. And I still sit in the same corner of my building and I look out and I see my junior high school auditorium. I'm very thankful for that, just to have the rootedness. I guess when you spend a third of your adult life, 4 months a year, striving to get away from home and living out of a 9 by 22 by 14-inch carry-on the airplane-sized suitcase, it's easier to do. It's easier to go away when you know that the happiest day in the year for you is that day you get to come home and be thankful for what a great town that you get to call home. I bought a house recently, and one of the prerequisites was I wanted to walk to work. I wanted it close enough to walk to work, and I just, rain or shine, man, walking down the hill here, it's a morning reminder, a daily reminder of how blessed we are. It would be a good exercise, I think, for almost anybody to once in a while park your car, 10 blocks away and walk into Edmonds. And you see that ferry going across, you see the sun brightening up the snow-tipped peaks, you see the fast boat going up to Victoria. I get to walk across the stadium, across the field, and then I always walk by the Boys and Girls Club, and I hear those little kids in there. And I see the commitment of the volunteers and the people and the community that makes something like that possible. It's almost counter-cultural these days to invest in the future and invest in kids that are not yours. And we managed to do that here, and that's the mark of a community that knows what's important. I continue my walk. I walk by the cute little church on Bell and I marvel at the steeple. I don't know if you ever know that steeple. My work is to find the greatest steeples in Europe, designed by cupolas and all this kind of stuff, designed by Michelangelo. This little steeple, they bought those dowels at Crow Hardware. Check out the dowels on the steeple. Next time you listen to that beautiful tune, and you feel in Italy there's a concept called campanilismo. It's a country of 1,000 bell towers. And when they created Italy in 1870, they said, great, we created Italy, now we got to create Italians. Because everybody was loyal to their local bell tower, their towns, their communities. And it's interesting because I feel a loyalty to that little bell tower with the dowels for the cupola. And that's something that is worth reminding ourselves. My office, my building, which we built 10 years ago, happens to be situated just under the city planning guardians, people that make sure you don't build too high. And you can't put anything on your roof in my building without somebody whose job is to make sure everything is to the letter is right there. And I know a lot of people chafe at city restrictions and so on, but you need to be thankful for city restrictions. Everything that's good about this town sits on a foundation of regulations, where people who have a lot give up a little, so everybody has enough to really love this place. And I think landowners have a huge responsibility to not chafe at the bit when it comes to these kind of restrictions, but to look at the big picture and think of our citizenry. 40,000 people live in this town, and not 40,000 people own land here. And I happen to be lucky to have a business here, but I'm thankful that that office is looking down on me, making sure I'm not going to do anything because of my privileged position to make this town any less for the general citizenry. We're dealing with growth. In my company, we're dealing with growth, and we have to grow. Growing is good. It's live. It gives people opportunities. But at the same time, we want to maintain our character and our culture. It's a challenge in a business. I've got 100 people now under my roof, and we want to run it with the same culture we had when we had 40. And Edmonds is growing too, and there are pressures. That's what we need to work together for. I'm so thankful we've got places here in Edmonds that can let a business thrive. We've got 3 venues, this being one of them, that each of them are important to me. And every time we throw an event, I'm glad we've got these venues to help people from outside come into Edmonds and see what beautiful restaurants we have and what wonderful shops we have and so on. We have to, when we're growing, we also deal with a little bit of discomfort. Lately, we had something radical called a Roundabout put in up at 5 Corners. I mean, talk about culture shock. My work is helping people deal with culture shock, You go and you find different people find different truths to be self-evident and God-given, and you realize that everybody is not trying to just do it like we do, but there's different ways and we can learn from each other. I realize there's a segment of our population that will never again drive through 5 corners. And I make a point to drive through 5 corners. I go around 2 or 3 times. Celebrate the fact that you don't have to stop, that you don't have to make pollution, that you don't have to contribute to congestion. You whip into that roundabout, you're talented enough to know how to yield, and you whip out of there thinking, this is a town that can handle growth. This is a town that can handle culture shock. In the other direction, we've got a new walkway along Sunset Avenue. I've never spent so much time walking along our beautiful shoreline as I have since that has been innovated. And, you know, all of us who live here like to take a walk, love to go down to the Spit and to walk out the fishing thing and down to the dog run and so on all across the marina. Thank goodness that we've had strong city government to protect that for people and not have fences up there just so the elites can have their own private zone. Every time I have a friend, we walk along the harbor and celebrate what Edmonds is all about. Beautiful place where the mountains hit the sea. We got boats and trains reminding us of a big world out there, and we got a funky little church cupola reminding us that this is our home. So that walk on Sunset to me is just a reminder that, yeah, I'm glad 100 people here have waterfront, and I'm glad that 40,000 people can walk along the waterfront, and there's not a town in Europe with a harbor front like we've got that wouldn't have a walk like that, so everybody could enjoy it. It's accessible, it's safe, it's a celebration. And I've seen a lot more people out there lately than I have before, and I find it's a gravity for me. I go down there when I need a break in my office, when I'm just fried. I go down there and I get to walk up and down that beautiful lane without stepping in mud puddles and without walking around cars. I think that takes courage from a city point of view to reach out and make these kind of innovations, and I'm thankful for it. I am a big fan of appreciating your blessings by leaving them for a little while, and as you know, I do that in my work. I travel to a lot of places where there's a huge gap between rich and poor, and it's clear to me, even if you're motivated only by greed, if you know what's good for you, you don't want to be filthy rich in a desperately poor world. Now, that's our situation to a great extreme if you go south of our border. But even here, you've got this struggle going on, and if we can't come up with money so people can get culture and so people can have quality schools, even if their parents aren't wealthy enough to get private schools, and where we can't have public spaces, and where we can't have communities without a lot of bars and security, we've really lost something. I'm so thankful I don't even think about locking my car. I don't lock my mailbox. I don't live behind bars. I've been in a lot of places where if you are a successful person, you live behind bars. To me, you may be a successful person, but you're not living in a successful society. I've been in places where when you cross the street, the joke is they just say, you don't say you're going to cross the street, they say you're going to Chechnya. It's just in Iran. When you cross the street, it's that dangerous. We've got a wonderful sort of sanity in our world, based in part by our population sparsity and by our smart laws and by a system where people really don't chafe at the laws, but they embrace the laws. I've been in places where the police are the enemy, and in our community, the police are our friends. I'm so thankful for that you are thankful that you can go to sleep at night knowing we've got a community that is well policed, and I think that's important for us to remember. I've been in places where there's no trees and where there's no concert halls, and there's plenty of money. It's just without good governance. The value of government is something that you recognize when you travel. And if you don't travel, you need to be reminded of it maybe, because it's easy to sit here and complain. It's a challenge to govern. It's a real challenge to govern. Ah, boy. And you don't have an Edmonds kind of day without good governance. And I know in our community in general, we've got a lot of dysfunction and a lot of ideologies that are competing. I'm thankful that here in our community, we vote for people not because of what party they're in, but because of their capability of helping administer this city. That's a huge advantage for a community. And I think most of us in this room are benefactors of the hard work that our city government does. I think we understand it takes patience, and it's a kind of a thankless task to sit through all those meetings and deal with the different ideas and so on. And a crowd like this today indicates that this is a community that cares and supports our government. I'm thankful for the leadership of our mayor in particular. Dave Earling is elected a mayor of Edmonds in November 2011. He has a wide range of experience. If you know him all the way back to his former music teacher days, a realtor, several terms as an Edmonds city councilman, and much more. Many examples of Dave's commitment to our community. He's worked long and hard on public transit and education boards. He's currently on the boards of Community Transit and Sound Transit, and he's the president of a group called Snohomish County Cities. Dave and his wife Susan raised their 3 kids right here in Edmonds, and it's just great to have Dave as our mayor. So on behalf of the fellow citizens of Edmonds, Dave, I thank you, and now our mayor, Dave Earling.
Rick just cut down my 25-minute speech to about, I'd like to conclude my remarks. I'm teasing, of course. Is this because we have both microphones on? Okay, well, I don't know what it has to do with then. Anyway, thank you very much for being here today. Would you see if you can shut it off? And I really want to thank, that's not the problem evidently, I really want to thank Diana and Rick for being here this morning. Let's give them another round of applause. I also want to thank the Mayo family. The Mayo family owns this building and they've made it available to us the last couple of years. It's a sign of the generosity of the family. And I know we've had several of their staff members here working on the technical pieces that need to be put in place. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm about to go into a portion that scares me to death every time I try and announce the names of all of the electeds, because inevitably someone came in after I saw them or I've forgotten someone. But there are several here this morning, and I would like to introduce them. I'll ask them to stand up individually, but if you'd be kind enough to hold your applause until the end. First of all, we have our county executive here, John Lovick. John, would you stay up, please? We have two of our city council members here, Council President Fraley Manias and Council Member Buckshness. I understand that Christiana Johnson, another council member, came in. There you are, stand up, Christiana. We also have other mayors here, Nicholas Smith from Linwood. We have Carla from, are you here? There you are. No, Carla, where are you? Stand up. Nichols, Carla Nichols. Anyway, she's here, unless she left. We also have Stephanie Wright here. Stephanie, if you'd stand. And we have a couple of the port commissioners that I saw come in, David Preston and Jim Orvis, if you would stand. And then the last one that I saw come in, and we'll mention his name a little later, is Troy McClelland, who's on the commission for the Everett Port. Anyway, anybody I missed? Oh, good. Oh, I'm sorry. Diana White, school board. Give them a round of applause. As you may know, I have invited community leaders here to participate in each of the State of the City programs. Last year, we had Carl Zapora from Verdant and Carolyn Douglas involved. The year before that, we had Dr. Jean Hernandez from Edmonds Community College and the former Swedish Edmonds Hospital CEO, David Jaffe. All of those people and organizations that they represent are involved in our city and in a very important way. And I always want to try and put a focus on different parts of the greater community. Speaking of Swedish Hospital, I want you to meet the new leader of Swedish Edmonds Hospital, Jennifer Graves. Jennifer, would you stand up? There you are. Yes, she is the new kid on the block. But we need to make sure that we make her feel very welcome in this community. I firmly believe in these presentations we should be thinking about the city and the region as a whole, not just focused on our Edmonds city government. You know, we have many celebrations in Edmonds. the 4th of July celebration, the Edmonds Arts Festival, tree lighting ceremony, celebration of Memorial Day, the Taste of Edmonds, just simply to name a few. This year, we will have a celebration which we will never get to celebrate again. We're 125 years old this year, folks. And on August 11th, 1890, Edmonds officially became a city. George Brackett was our founder. George Brackett was the first postmaster. George Brackett was the first mayor. Talk about control. By the way, our city was named after a United States senator from Vermont. His last name was Edmonds. It was spelled Edmunds. A follow-up was made in the U.S. Postal Service, and we became Edmonds, Edmonds. A little bit of history for us, but it's a pretty fun story. And to make it a bit more complicated for some of you, Senator Edmonds was a Republican. I couldn't resist. Let me introduce you to the first mayor of our city. He had a beard. I'm not sure. You know, the thing that gets me about the photos that you get from the late 1800s into, well, about 1930, no one knew how to smile until they got to about the 1930s. You go back and look at some of the photos of groups, it's just amazing to see how straight-faced they all are. I don't know who broke the ice, but I'm glad it finally happened. By the way, we will be forming a mayor's task force to help put together a package of celebrations with this special anniversary. And if any of you are interested in participating, or if you know someone that would add value to it, contact Carolyn in my office. It'll be a great adventure, and we want to be sure we give the 125th anniversary its due respect, knowing we will not get another chance at it. As many of you know, I have a keen interest in history. I thought you might enjoy a few photos highlighting our evolving community. This first one is one that I absolutely love. 5 years later, 5 years after the founding of the city, this is what Edmonds was. And picking up on Rick's comments, you'll notice that the whole thing was clear cut. No trees. And of course, this was a lumbering town as we started, so that's probably the reason for that. And also, if you get a chance to really study the picture, you'll notice most of the homes are right up pretty close to the street. And each of these lots at the back part of the property have a small wood-framed building. I wonder what that was for. Let's fast forward to 1910. We have, by 1910, we have guaranteed muddy streets. You can see in the background the Beeson building. It's been here a very long time. And there's also all of the telephone poles up, which you all hate so much. But nonetheless, it was here. The next couple of photos I'll show you deal with the way the town evolved in really a 17-year period that I'd like to highlight. This is a photo taken in 1936. The next photo is a photo of 1953. We grew, folks. 36, 53. Pretty dramatic. Here's another view I'd like to show you from the corner of 5th and Main, which you all know and love. You go to Starbucks every day. You can see on the right-hand side there the original Princess Theater, which you are setting in today. Same space, pretty amazing, the Princess Theater back then. On the corner, you can see the Hubbard Insurance and Real Estate Company. There is still a Hubbard Trust here in town, which is very helpful on certain issues in the city. Mr. Hubbard was a real mover and shaker in the 40s and 50s. And across the street, you can see a tavern sign, which only really came down a few years ago. And next to that is the venerable Edmonds Bakery. So that's enough history. So how are we Edmonds? That's the question I ask myself every year when I begin to piece together the State of the City presentation. And the easy answer is yes, we are in pretty good shape. So we should all just quit now and go home with your bag of popcorn and everything's fine. Well, maybe not. Going into 2015, we have much good news to report from 2014 and much to look forward to in 2015. We also need to be clear about the challenges and the work in front of us. Before we get to that, every year I like to spend a couple of minutes talking about the amazing staff we have here in Edmonds with the city. You need to know we have one of the smallest staffs proportionate to population size in the Puget Sound area. We have 200 to 205, generally speaking, in our city. Do we ever have complaints? Yeah. Do we ever have problems to solve? You bet. But you need to know I receive many more staff compliments than complaints. Just last week, I heard a report from a citizen that a new builder to our city was very impressed with the quality of work and the friendly reception he received from the planning staff. In fact, I want to highlight the amazing amount of work that has come out of our planning, building inspection, and engineering departments this year. Just consider a couple of things. Well, I want to back, there's one other paragraph I want to get in here. 3 years ago, we were actually just beginning to think about coming out of the recession. Too often I heard maligned staff members from the building department, the planning, the engineering, people making accusations they were creating busy work because of the poor economy and having little to do. You need to know about the explosion of work these same folks have undertaken and successfully accomplished with the dramatic increase of projects this past year. Stop and consider the major expansion at Swedish Edmonds Hospital, the new Community Health Center on Highway 99, 43 new housing units being built at the corner of 2nd and Bell. The Jacobson Marine is now up and running in the Port District. The new veterinary facility is nearing completion on 5th Avenue. We have the redevelopment of the Salish Crossing. We had 46 new housing starts in Edmonds this year, and we have several new duplexes now under permit. All of these and this, on day-to-day, they have to still do that, along with the normal expansions of a house, with electrical, with plumbing needs. That work group is now the center of attention and doing a magnificent work. The workload is heavy, and they are meeting the demand. In fact, they've done so much, I want to publicly mention their performance this past year and their professionalism. I know many of those staff members are here today. I'd like all of them to stand up, and if you would give them a round of applause for a job well done. Stand up. Come on. Thanks very much. All of you know we have a very high-performing police department. They continue to gain national and state recognition and awards. I want to highlight two of our finest today. Recently, Corporal Ken Crystal and Officer Earl Yaman were honored at the Snohomish County Red Cross Real Heroes Breakfast. Officer Yaman and Corporal Crystal responded to a condominium fire here in Edmonds. When the officers arrived, a resident advised the officers they saw a resident unconscious in one of the units. The two officers rushed inside, found the unconscious man covered with soot. They brought him out of the building and performed CPR. The medics, upon arrival, confirmed the victim would have died without the officer's quick reactions. Ladies and gentlemen, Officer Yaman is with us this morning. Earl, would you please stand and be recognized? You've just seen two examples of the quality work our staff does on a daily basis here. So let's begin with how the city has come through a very busy 2014. The work we have done and how we have achieved many of our goals. Many of you have been involved for a couple of years back with the formulation of the community and staff strategic action plan, developed over 2 years of intense work. We do not want studies to gain dust on a shelf, and I don't want that to happen with this action plan. We can report several of the identified 80-some issues identified in the plan have been completed or at least underway. And I'd like to give you just a few examples. First of all, and there's a numbering system here that I'll never understand why in the hell they put it together this way. But you'll be happy to know that Task 1B1, retain and recruit businesses that support expanded health-related facilities. Guess what? There they are. As you can see, we've been successful in that. It's not necessarily us, but we are really beginning to develop a health central campus out near Highway 99 and near 76th. We will eventually become a health center for all of South Snohomish County. Task 1B5, encourage packaging the Safeway Antique Mall, Salish Crossing, and other properties to enhance redevelopment opportunities of this significant gateway. Here's some good news. Besides the art museum, which I am so terribly interested, as you maybe followed in the recent news, we're going to have a Top Pots donut there, as well as Spud Fish and Chips, which, by the way, I understand is their first expansion in 35 years. We'll also have Brigid's Bottle Shop. I wonder what they sell there. As I understand it, it will be a national and international beer gathering business that you can go in and partake in. Then we move on to example 1B9, create a downtown business improvement area, Edmonds Downtown Alliance, to benefit properties and businesses for the purpose of instituting marketing, design, and promotional activities. Here's the website. And you should know this has now been organized with a very effective board of 10 or 11 people. They have really organized a great work plan. The first evidence we've seen in town, when it rains in town, you may have noticed the green umbrellas wandering around town. That's their first visible project. It's going to be a very successful effort. Task 1E1, create a central clearinghouse to coordinate scheduling and promotion of events, as well as utilizing social media for promoting events, festivals to attract year-round interest in performing, literary, culinary, fine, and other arts. Their website is visitedmonds.com. And if you haven't had a chance to look at it yet, we also have a new Facebook page for the city of Edmonds. And when you go back home, and if you're a Facebook user, look it up. It's really a very good site, just kind of giving us good information that's going on in the community. Task 3A, 1. Develop long-term solutions for maintaining and updating the senior center. This, we just did that yesterday, built it. But the vision here is, and this is just an example of what a new senior and community center might look like. We, the City of Edmonds and the Senior Center, just recently signed a long-term land lease agreement with the Senior Center That gives them the ability, with some security, to then move on and begin serious fundraising with the foundation they put in place and with their board. So that'll be a great improvement. It won't happen by the end of June this year. Task 4A11 installs safety improvements on SR 104 and Highway 99. We don't like this one. I'm going to talk about that one a little later. It's caused a bit of a fuss, and I think it's worth highlighting in some more descriptive terms. Task 5B1, conduct town halls, public open houses, and other events to create better and easy public access and participation. As you know, we've been doing town halls on a quarterly basis, moving around the city to give more people an opportunity to interact with the city. We've been trying to do a column every 2 weeks just to keep people informed with what's going on in town. And of course, we started the state of the city. Now we have videographers here today, and it will be played, I assume, on My Edmonds News, and will also be on the city website. I'd like to drop back and talk a little further about how we approach change in our community. And I know Rick already highlighted this a bit. First, in a relatively recent historical context, but also about how we treat change today. With my interest in history, I'm aware that history is in fact created every day, although most of us do not think of history as a daily occurrence. Ah, yes, change. How do all of you feel about the Edmonds Center for the Arts? How many like it? Just raise your hands. Pretty good. I thought I would probably get that response. I just want to be fair about that. But if you don't know, or if you don't remember, or when this was originally proposed, there was a great fuss over what were we doing with this famous landmark, which was frankly dilapidated at that time, and it will not be successful, and is doomed for failure because it costs too much, or who needs it, or we can't attract top talent to Edmonds. So said the detractors. How do you feel about it now? Pretty amazing. Fortunately, we usually have a much larger group willing to step in, create, and pursue the vision. And now we have a historical jewel which continues to help us and have a healthy and vibrant community. Or how about this? Remember the commotion this caused in the community? And yes, there will always be, as Rick said, detractors from a project like that. But after it became fully functional, the view dramatically changed. I first experienced that one day after it had been open for, I don't know, a few weeks. I was actually walking into QFC at Westgate, and right at the sliding doors, walking in, all of a sudden behind me, that's generally something you don't want to do to someone unless you want a consequence from it. But I turned around and there was a gentleman there, and I wish I had his name. I should have thought to ask him about it. But he said, "Mayor, I just got to tell you, I hated this idea of the roundabout. I've now gone through it, I don't know, 10, 12 times. It's fabulous. It works, and I just wanted to apologize to you." Hell, I didn't even know he was mad at me. But I think whether you're a council member or a staff member or myself, we've heard that repeatedly. This was a good thing. And yet we somehow want to argue about most everything. How about, well, you got to go back again. Quite a ways. This more recently caused quite a bit of a commotion. But anytime I can create a $500,000 public safety project and help our community to better connect as well as assist with creating a walkable downtown city. And our cost was $10,000 out of a $500,000 project. I'll take that anytime in a heartbeat, and I'll do it every time. It's a fabulous addition. We will, in fact, improve communication in the city. It improves accessibility, and I just thank the Washington State Department of Transportation funding the other $490,000. The point I'm trying to make is change takes a while to get used to. Sometimes we need to think about change, sometimes we need to debate change, and sometimes even backtrack on change and revise our thoughts. But we must remember change will always happen around us, and the goal is to provide the best outcome. We cannot stop change, we simply have the opportunity to shape change to our own satisfaction. So, looking ahead to 2015, I'll go through a couple of things pretty quickly here. As you know, we started a street repaving program here a few years ago, or last year. 5 years, though, we did not do any kind of real maintenance on our downtown streets. We needed to start fixing that. Last year, we came up with $1.2 million out of our general fund, and we're able to begin that repaving program. We have about the same amount of money additionally this year, so we'll continue that program. The one potential downside I've got to tell you is I'm not sure I'll be able to find another $1 million next year for that street resurfacing program that has been successful and long time needed. We'll also have this next year the City Park spray pad. Any of you have had children or grandchildren that have been down to the city park, you know that we put in a great new play equipment last year. And it was used enormously. I was there for the ribbon cutting. You couldn't believe the number of kids backed up just waiting to tear into it. We then will have the new city park spray pad this year, which will be a great thing for the children and adults. If you want to wear your swimsuits, you could probably run through it too. But nonetheless, it's really a great addition. As mentioned by Diana, we'll also start the construction this year of the Edmonds the Woodway High School athletic fields improvements, which is really being called the Woodway Health and Wellness Campus. It was a partnership put together between the City of Edmonds, the Edmonds School District, the State of Washington's county or national or state government, and then a generous contribution from the Verdant Commission. This next year, we'll actually build 2 of the fields. It'll be a great start. Eventually, it'll be 4 fields, athletic fields, and we'll also include exercise areas, walking paths, running paths, play equipment. It'll be a great gathering place for the community. But the first section, that is the first 2 fields, will be constructed this year. We'll also have the completion of Salish Crossing. As you know, that used to be just a rundown, dilapidated strip mall. And the modifications that are going to be going on there, go peek in the windows. It's fabulous to see what they're doing down there. It'll have what I think will be a statewide important art museum. It'll have a restaurant. It'll have the bottling company. It'll have a distillery. It'll have Spud's Fish and Chips. It will have Top Pot Donuts. All of that's going to shift the emphasis down to that area, or at least help magnify the positive experience by being in and around the waterfront. We also need to complete our comprehensive plan. Now, that's not a very sexy sounding thing, but nonetheless, it's a project that we need to undertake periodically to meet the growth management and state guidelines. We will be working hard on completing, it's the vision piece that we send to the state on a periodic basis. We should have that ready to go by the end of June. We are beginning a major east-west connector at about 228th and Highway 99. It'll be a 2-year project. It will help connect I-5 and the city of Edmonds much more efficiently. It's a joint project between Mountlake Terrace and the city of Edmonds. Again, it will take 2 years, but it will give us another travel venue to get back and forth between here and really what amounts to the community transit parking garage that is over on the freeway. So what are some of the challenges that I have one more thing I want to mention. You all know it's been talked about several times here today, the expansion of the Swedish hospital campus. It will be a 78,000 square foot expansion. An exciting project to go with the new cancer center that is already there and the new parking garage, which has been built already. It'll be a fabulous addition to our community. As I said earlier today, our health needs are going to be met with a variety of buildings that are being built over there, and we need to be very supportive of what they do. So, what are some of the challenges that we face? First of all, we've got some issues in front of the state legislature which are incredibly important to the city. There's 2 or 3 things that we're really interested in. We are seeking funding for the alternatives analysis to help us solve the long-term train issues that we have. It's pretty well agreed to by 2030, we will have up to 100 trains a day coming through our town. When we shut down the waterfront now every day, as we do every time a train comes through, we shut down about 2.5 hours in a 24-hour period. With 100 trains a day, staff contemplates that we could have a shutdown there for up to 4 hours in a 24-hour period. Clearly unacceptable to the citizens of Edmonds, clearly unacceptable to the state of Washington, which, by the way, has a major highway coming through. And we are seeking $1.25 million to do this alternative study. We are also, and I just had a great picture here. It's hard to see. It's not a coal train, it's an oil train. We know that we will have oil trains coming through and coal trains coming through. They already do. The point is we have to solve the problem so we can connect our community together. Another important issue is funding of the civic playfield. Diana, in her comments, mentioned that they own the civic playfield. They want to sell. We want to buy. We have a large grant request in to help us purchase that, and it would really be a key to making this whole project happen. Another piece that we're looking for is a long-term statewide transportation program. Within that program, we are hoping to have, if it's put together, a $10 million improvement for Highway 99. Highway 99 has this very successful international district going on at this time, but we need to make sure that we carry some sort of a theme or consistency as we move from the county line up to about 212th, whereas we stop having the responsibility for Highway 99. We also are poised to receive a couple of grants for the fishing pier. The fishing pier is currently owned by the state. They don't want to own it anymore. They want us to own it. But I'm not willing to take possession of it until the state pays for a complete refurbishing. It's really in pretty bad shape right now. And we're hopeful with these 2 grants that we'll be able to move forward on a large project like that. Regarding the legislature, we in Snohomish County have worked long and hard finding ways to encourage the Snohomish County legislators to work together on key needed county initiatives. I can report growing success in that initiative. One of the major players in that is the Economic Alliance Snohomish County. And Troy McClellan, who we introduced as a port commissioner, is here now. And Troy, would you stand up again? Or yeah, stand up. Troy and that group have done just a fabulous job in causing influence on behalf of the county at the state legislature. I serve on the board, and we should be proud of the work that the Alliance has provided. I should also report that Snohomish County cities have organized with the same intent and with the same purpose of better working with the legislature. We in the cities have agreed on certain key issues and will work together in Olympia. Now back to my important challenges. We need to have a complete rewrite of our city code. If you don't have much use to use or much reason to use the city code, and I understand why you don't often, but over the last decades, we have assembled this mishmash of code requirements. We need to standardize it. We need to make it more user-friendly, and there's a major revision going on with the city code right now. We also need to create a vision for Westgate. Westgate's an enormously important location for Edmonds. Frankly, it's a great sales tax gatherer, but we've got all the infrastructure in there for a small community if we want to try and expand that in some fashion. Stop and think about it. We've got 2 grocery stores, we have service businesses, we have banks, we have a gas station. It's a natural center that we could really work on to help people and have that project become a walkable neighborhood. Very important work. We worked on it a bit last year with the council. We're hopeful that we can move it through the council, creating that vision during the first quarter this year. We have some long-term financial issues I just want to briefly touch on, but they are challenges. Last year, we had a fabulous year on the revenue side. With the growing economy, some of the work we've done with our economic development, we've just exploded with more money than you might think we need, but I'm going to show you that's not true. Here is the 4 areas in which we gained the most income increase in the last year. So these numbers are all 2014 improvements over 2013 improvements. $150,000 in property taxes, $592,000 from the development services area that we talked about earlier, $515,000 in sales tax increase, $88,000 from the REIT funds, which is a tax that we receive a small portion of on every real estate sales that happen here in the community. So that looks like great new news, right? So we've really started to recover. That's good. And we expect to have a very good economy here locally this year again. However, I want to show you that coming out of the recession, magically all of our expenses start going up too. Magically. Here's a list of issues that I'm sure some of you are familiar with. Fire District 1, which has just been in the news lately. Snohomish County is going to be charging us about another $170,000 for police service. Some of our contract costs have gone up dramatically. We also have SNOCOM costs. There's a whole list here. Again, we have other sources of income that I showed you in that last slide, not just those 4. But we also have more expenses than what I'm showing you on this list. It's just to make the point. You get down to the bottom of this column, and it's $1.4 million. And you remember the other one was 1.35. The numbers don't add up to about $57,000 upside down. So we're going to have to figure out how we can generate more revenue over time in this city. And we'll probably have some sort of a very public discussion about that here in the next few months. The final important challenge I think I just need to share with all of you is that this year we will have local elections here in town. We will have 5 of 7 council members up, the positions up, and the mayor's position will be up also. The one thing I can guarantee you in October, there will be a sea of signs around our city. And that's a comical, but as you know, will happen. But the important thing is it will be an opportunity for all of us to make decisions as citizens and who and how we are being governed in the next couple of years. In conclusion, while we have accomplished much and will always have challenges, which we in the community will have to meet, we have a rare gem of a community in Edmonds, Washington. But we all know that, right? While many think of our community as a small, quaint, seaside village. We are, in fact, much more than that. We are a picturesque, I give everybody that, vibrant, alive city of 40,000 people. It's the third largest city in Snohomish County. We have excellent schools. We have a wonderful healthcare facilities. We have a flourishing international district, a sensational arts community, a community of outstanding celebrations, which brings the community closer together. We have fabulous parks, a quality port district, and a diverse and successful Chamber of Commerce and business community. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not a small, quaint seaside village. We are, in fact, a player of importance in the county and in the state. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Edmonds, Washington. And may I welcome you to that Edmonds, Washington. Thank you for being here today.